Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I'm Aaron, and this is the Inclusive Dad podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in exploring ways we can create a more inclusive world together. You are important, you matter, and you can make a difference. Today, my guest is Regina Beach. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Why don't you start us off by just telling us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Regina Beach. I am originally from the American Midwest. I currently live in the UK. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2021. And before that, I led a super active life. I was very physically fit and able. And so, becoming disabled in my mid 30s, I was not in the headspace to really understand not only like, I think everyone kind of has this idea of, oh, there's physical limitations and we live in a world that is physically inaccessible. I was not prepared for the mental and psychological challenges that also come with living in a different body. And I understand that that's obviously a different situation from someone who grows up with a disability from birth, but I can speak of someone with an acquired disability having that like really stark before and after, and understanding how, even though I was a classroom teacher, I worked with special needs students. I have had, lots of interactions with people with disabilities. I don't think it's possible to truly understand the barriers to access until you live it either as someone who has a disability or someone who is a primary carer of someone who lives with a disability. So, in the past 5 years, I've changed my focus entirely. I can't stand long enough to teach in person in a class anymore. I've gone back to my first passion of writing. I'm a disability advocate. I produce a podcast. I teach accessible seated yoga and online um, wellness, creativity, and ways to get that mental headspace, which I think underpins it helps you be able to take on all of the physical challenges that come with chronic illness or disability when you have a more calm, more a self-acceptance of what's possible and what you need so that you can articulate that to all of the people, because you have to disclose over and over and over again in order to function in society. And I think that's totally possible, but takes a lot of mental fortitude.
Thanks for all that. Can you maybe explain, in your own words, like what MS is? I mean, I think I have an idea, but can you just explain what that is in your own
Yeah,
words, please?
absolutely. So multiple sclerosis is a demyelination disease. It is an autoimmune disease, so it affects the brain and the central nervous system, where rogue immune cells get into the spinal cord and into the brain and eat away at the fatty myelin coating. And so that causes like a frayed wire where the messages are not getting from the brain to the rest of the body. So MS symptoms really run the gamut. They call it the snowflake disease because every part of your body is communicated with through the nerves. So for me, I have a lot of physical symptoms. You can tell that I'm disabled, but for many people with MS, they have more cognitive symptoms. They might have altered sensation. They might feel itchy or burning, or they might have numbness or tingling. For me, I have a lot of gait issues. I have bladder and bowel issues. I struggle to walk well or walk long distances. I ambulate either using crutches or a rollator, or I use my mobility scooter for longer distances, but that's actually quite unusual. Most people, it takes 10, 15 years to require a cane or some other um, mobility device. But it just depends on where the lesions are. For me, it's in the spine. And so the neuroplasticity is much more difficult because that's such a tiny, narrow bit of the body to make new neural pathways in the spine is more difficult than if you have lesions in the brain. There's just like a lot more mass where the nerves might be able to find an alternative pathway to send the message from one part of the brain to the other. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what MS is and how it affects people in really different ways.
Yeah, thank you for that. What is the treatment? Is there something to cure it or slow it down, or how do you
Yeah, so
treat the
there's
symptoms?
no cure right now for MS, but over the past 30 years, I think there's 20 some what we call disease modifying treatments on the market now. So in the 90s, there was really nothing. It was, very much um, the outlook was not great. And now there are loads of medications. Some are self-injectable, some are tablets, some are infusions, some you take every day, some are once a week, once a month, a couple times a year. And then they all have, different side effect profiles. Some are more highly efficacious, but come with more risk. Others are less efficacious, but have a higher safety profile. So it's all about matching um, the intensity of the disease, your own appetite for risk. And then with MS, we have both acute attacks, so a disease of inflammation are usually in the earlier stage, and then neurodegeneration in the latter stage, where you have worsening without having these flares. So some people will have an MS flare or attack, they'll have symptoms, and then that'll go away and they might return to baseline, or they might have some lingering symptoms, but they're back to their own baseline. Other people have a more um, degeneration starts early and they see progression even if they're not experiencing an acute inflammatory attack. So again, it depends on your individual situation and also obviously where you are, who your doctor is, depending on what country you're in, what's approved, whether your insurance will cover it. There's a lot of factors that go into deciding what treatment to take, but there's also a lot of lifestyle factors. So, eating an anti-inflammatory diet, daily exercise, mindfulness and meditation, levels of vitamin D, all of that can help whether or not you're eligible for drugs to slow progression and stave off further relapse.
Yeah, thanks for all that information. If you had to define inclusion, what would your definition be?
I think that inclusion means making space for everybody's access needs. It doesn't always mean meeting them perfectly. We know people have conflicting access needs. There's no such thing as a space that is fully accessible. But if we start with access in mind, we're building a space that feels inclusive where people can then say, hey, I have this need, can you meet it? And having the freedom or the encouragement for people to be able to stick their hand up and say, I need this met. That's what true inclusion is, because we're not going to be able to just magically meet everyone's needs, but we can build a space where people feel comfortable articulating, I need this, can we have this? And I think it's just as much like psychosocial and emotional as it is the physically built environment of having ramps and accessible bathrooms and having quiet spaces or ASL translations or whatever other physical accessibility we need. It's also about building a space that feels um, comfortable to be in.
Yeah, that's a great definition. So I have a daughter. Her name's Cecilia. We call her Cece. She is 23 and she uses a power wheelchair to get around. So a lot of the inclusion stuff for me is the accessibility piece. Like if somebody's having a birthday party and they have it at their house that has 4 steps, like she can't go. So then it's not, even if they want us to be there, it's like either unless we're having it outside in the driveway or the garage, we can't come in the house. So it's not inclusive. I mean, you said MS is kind of a spectrum or different depending on who has it, but maybe can you talk a little bit on your situation? Like, what are the things that, make a space or an event or whatever, like less accessible for you? And how can people, what questions can they ask? What different things can they do to make it more accessible?
Yeah, I'm always looking for step-free access. While it is possible for me to get up and maybe go up a few steps, especially if my husband or, a strong, able-bodied friend is with me, it's not comfortable for me to do that. So, ideally, it'll be a space that has a ramp where I can use my manual wheelchair or my scooter or my rollator to get myself, because I'd rather do it myself, right? I'd rather not um, be reliant on a care partner. But there's certainly been times when my husband, who's, more than 6 feet tall, has literally, scooped me up and carried me to places because I wanted to partake, but the location wasn't accessible. For me, another really big one is having an accessible toilet. So, one of the invisible symptoms of MS is frequency and urgency. And then there's a lot of anxiety when you don't, where you don't, if you don't know where the toilet is or if it's going to be accessible. So there's these little I can't wait cards, where you can say, I have a real urgency. I need to cut the line. I need to be first. Or in the UK, we have something called the radar scheme, where there's loads of public toilets that they use this special key that you can have access to if you're disabled, so that you can, if you're out and about, you then can like use an app and see where are all the accessible bathrooms, which is also really great because for me, yes, the outdoors can be good in terms of being accessible, but if there aren't facilities nearby, then that actually becomes a barrier to access for me. Other things that I think are maybe, excuse me, less thought of. Um, is because I have some dietary requirements, is just making sure that people are either aware or that I can bring my own food, or just that is all, that a menu is discussed ahead of time, or that I can see whether or not, okay, should I eat before, or is there gonna be something for me when we arrive? Um, but I try to do as much as I can, because the alternative is just being like housebound and stuck at home because you're so afraid of not being able to access things. And I think when I was first diagnosed, I had a lot of fear of being seen in public in this new body, and being having to ask people for the accommodations that I need. And so the more practice I have, the more confident I am being out with the mobility aid, being calling ahead and saying, hey, like um, what does your facility offer? Will you be able to accommodate me? And being able to, I've been writing lots of Google reviews, and being able to say then, like, okay, there really is step-free access, or you actually have to call because someone has to come and put a ramp down, which is, yes, accessible, but it's not totally inclusive because I can't do it myself. Or there's a really heavy door, so you actually need someone to open it for you. There's not like a push button. Like, so just having those things, that makes me really happy when I can go on Google and see someone else's experience. That helps me feel less anxious when I show up. So I try to pay it forward with posting those types of accessibility features in my own reviews of places.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, it sounds like, well, we like going to concerts and so does my daughter. So it sounds like you have to do similar stuff that I do because she's in a wheelchair. She also has epilepsy, so she has her rescue meds and there's stuff attached to her chair. So, I mean, now if we go to a concert, I'm calling the facility, also trying to figure out, if what comes with her seat, does a companion come with it or do you have to buy it extra or how that stuff works. So making sure we can get through the gate with her bags on it if they have like a clear bag policy. So yeah, I do a lot of pre-work too, just to hopefully head off something. So yeah, it sounds like you got some similar things that you do. So
Yeah, there's one thing that I think is really wonderful in the UK. We have an access scheme. So I've submitted all of my like documentation to the access scheme. And I have this little card that says, I require an essential companion, that I need an accessible washroom. It has all these little icons that show what your access needs are. So anytime a place shows, like, okay, do you have proof of disability? I can submit this rather than having to submit more sensitive information. And because of that, almost everywhere then will offer an essential companion ticket, which is such a blessing because it means that there's not, there's already so much financial burden that most people don't even think about, in addition to the physical issues of being disabled, the time costs of having more medical appointments and not feeling well. um, and so that I think is really great when a place can offer an essential companion ticket, so that you have somebody who can take care of all of those little things or just help make the experience more enjoyable, or honestly even possible. I don't think there's a lot of places I would feel comfortable going on my own, and a concert is definitely one of those. I would really need someone to go with me.
yeah, that sounds great. You talked a little bit about, I think, like accessible yoga, and you discussed meditation. So in the late last summer, I started at work co-facilitating DBT groups. So I've started to learn a little bit about DBT and mindfulness and meditation. So do you want to maybe discuss like how, I mean, to me, I mean, I guess it seems like the mindfulness stuff seems pretty accessible. Do you want to talk about like that, how mindfulness has helped you, meditation, how accessible it is, and then maybe about the yoga and stuff,
Yeah,
please?
absolutely. So I used to practice and teach Bikram yoga, which is a super um very intense. You're in a hot room, it's like 90 degrees, you're standing up, it's very physically demanding, it's very difficult for even a lot of able-bodied people to do. So first I had to do like a lot of work of um my own internalized ableism. Is, can I still teach? What does this look like? What does it look like for my own practice? And so now I teach an MS specific seated yoga and meditation class. It's only 30 minutes long because I think one of the biggest um symptoms of MS and lots of other chronic conditions is fatigue. And so 30 minutes seems like the sweet spot where people are able to um attend. They can try it, and they don't get too worn out by the end. And so much of what we do, like, I offer, hey, if you want to move your legs and you want to stretch your legs, great. But I never start with that. I always start with what's the easiest, least um, intense version of whatever we're doing. And I say, if you want more, then you can try this. If you still want more, then you can try this. If your body feels comfortable doing this today, you can try this. Because I think there's also an idea in our culture that we need to go 100%. And so if you're, in any way able to make this shape with your body, you should do that. And what I'm trying to teach is, no, the breath is first. The breath is most important. If you've lost the breath or it feels hard, then maybe you need to like really dial it back. And I also teach that visualization is just as powerful as the actual movement. Um, and this is something that I saw demonstrated really, really well. About a year ago, I was at the University of Alabama, Birmingham's Disability Arts Festival, participating in a stage performance called From Where I Sit, with people who experienced spinal cord injury or illness. So those people who had who were in power chairs, who had spinal cord injuries, people like me with MS, people with other spinal cord disorders. And so much of the dance component, which I think made all of us very, very nervous, because it's like, me, me dance, like, I don't know, like, that seems like way above my pay grade. So much of it was about, okay, what can you do? Can you move your head? Can you use your power chair in line with the music? Can you, do you have capacity with your hands? Can you do, like, it's all about, starting with what people are bringing to the table and then giving them lots and lots of choices and making whatever they're bringing to the table feel like enough, that's where the magic happens, because it's not really about the shape your body makes or how much you can move, whether it's dance or yoga or a sport or whatever it is. It's more about, okay, do I feel like this is a space that I'm allowed to embody? And previously I was like, oh, dance is off the table for me, that's not something I can do. And then feeling pulled into that world and saying, "Oh, actually, yeah, there's loads I can do. I can sit in my scooter and, weave around the stage, or, oh yeah, I can sit in my chair and I can turn my neck and stretch and breathe while I'm doing that." It just gives a different baseline of what it means to participate, which has just been really exciting. I feel like my practice has actually deepened, and that I think I hope, I think I'm a better teacher because of my own experience. And I think I'm hopefully bringing more people into the fold that had previously written off certain activities as being inaccessible or not for them. But that's just a matter of finding the right space and the right teacher, because it's always, there's a big continuum with all of these things. And not everybody is going to fit into every experience, and that's fine. I might not be for you. That's also okay. But it just means that just because one thing didn't work doesn't mean that whole activity should be off the table. I guess that's what I'm learning, and that's what I'm trying to convey to other people.
Yeah, I like that, how you talked about it and how each person kind of approaches it from what they're able to do. It's just when you say dance, so I grew up Baptist, so we couldn't dance. So if somebody talks about dancing for me, I don't think I have skills, but like you said, it's like whatever. And also you have in your head about your mind, my mind about like, the dance teams or all that stuff where they practice a ton and everybody needs to look exactly the same and do it the same. So, I mean, there's those things in my head where in order to get to where you're talking about, I have to like, process those or think about them and change my thinking about what dancing is or, how I can participate. So, yeah.
Yeah, and this is also, I think, true in this era of social media where we see like the most like elite version of whatever it is, and we think, oh well, that's how you have to do it. I went to a talk by Ellie Stroker, who was one of the first people in a wheelchair who graduated from NYU's drama department, and she had to really fight to be able to be included in the dance classes because the professors didn't have that working knowledge of what it could look like for someone who didn't have use of their legs to be part of a collegiate dance program. And she was like, no, look, I can use my wheelchair, I can move in my own way, I can contribute, and the other students will actually be better for having me be part of this course. But it takes some people thinking outside of the box and really doing that advocacy work. And it's just like the London Marathon was this past weekend from when we were recording this, and two people broke the 2 hour mark, which had never been done before. And now, you know what we're going to see? We're going to see probably tens of people over the next few years break that 2 hour mark, right? That's at the very elite. That's at the very, very top. But it also works at the no matter what level you're at, right? If you see someone who has your same disability or your same chronic condition who is doing something remarkable to you, you're like, oh, I could never do that. And then you see it in practice, you're like, oh, maybe there is a possibility for me. Maybe I can strive for this. Maybe there is a place for me. So it's all about seeing it happen. It's hard to be the first, but once you see it happen, it's easier to say, okay, it worked for that person. Maybe I can find a way for this to fit with my ability. Maybe I can tweak how I'm thinking about myself, right? Because it really all comes down to um, the mental fortitude first. We'll find a way to physically get people to do really amazing things if the mindset is there to say, okay, I'm gonna fail forward enough times to find a way to make this accessible for me.
Yeah, I love that. Can you talk about like how mindfulness and meditation's been helpful for you
Yeah, so I've
in your journey?
been yeah, for sure. I've been practicing mindfulness and meditation for a long time, but now I find it's indispensable. So if I usually meditate in the afternoon instead of taking a nap. Like I talked about the MS fatigue, I will hit a wall and I find that actually sometimes doing a yoga nidra or a guided meditation or some intentional breath work actually calms my mind and rejuvenates my body just as well or sometimes better than a nap. And I also find if I skip meditation a few days in a row, like maybe my schedule doesn't allow for it, or we're traveling somewhere, or someone's at the house visiting us, and I can see the agitation. I can feel it in my body, and I can that like very negative that voice in the back of your head that says you're not good enough, you're not doing enough, this is hopeless, everything's going to shit. That voice gets really loud when I don't actively manage my mental health, and one of the biggest parts of that for me is a daily mindfulness practice. And I know that not everybody is going to want to sit down and be quiet for 30 minutes, but even just like light a candle and do 10 breaths, or like feel whatever part of your body that you can feel in your bed or in your chair before you like go do something. Or oh, every time I sit down to eat, I'm going to say I'm grateful for something, right? All of those little bitty things, they add up. And then when you do that often enough, connect with your body, connect with your breath, have a mindset of gratitude and can do and forward thinking rather than dwelling. Because it sucks, right? For no matter who you are, whether you're able bodied or whether you're disabled, there's a lot of terrible things that happen in this world. We can dwell on them. We can dwell on, oh, it's me and I wish this didn't happen to me and this is so hard, and it is so hard, and that's not to be Pollyanna-ish about how hard it is to be alive and in this body in this time. But when we can calm the breath, calm the mind, um, just makes things a lot nicer. Right? We have to live in our own brain, so we can either listen to that mean voice or we can make our brain like a nice place to live. And I'm trying to make my brain as kind of a um, an a tolerable, lovely, asset-based place to occupy. I have to live in it. I have to be with myself. Why not make our relationship with ourselves as gentle as possible?
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I've been doing some mindfulness stuff since starting the DBT, co-facilitating that. And I mean, it's been interesting just to see in this short time how much it's helped me. Just, if I start feeling anxious, just do some breathing or, trying to do one thing at a time, like, went over that concept, and I was like, I don't think I do anything one thing at a time, like, getting dressed, like, maybe if I'm not listening to music, but my life is so much, like, I have to, like, have music on, or I have to be, multiple things at a time, and it's like, once I started realizing that, and now the last couple days, I've been just driving without even having music on, just driving and, looking around, not having the extra music sound, and it's interesting how like my brain and my body kind of relaxes, the more I try to do one thing at a time and be in the moment. So it's something that I feel everybody should do because we're just so inundated with so much stuff now. It's like I think it's very important to try to do one thing at a time, or even like eating. Like we would got in the habit of eating, we're gonna sit on the couch and eat while we're watching TV. It's like what like why like we can't take a half an hour to sit at the table and eat and not have TV on? Like, it just why do we have to do some 2 things all the time? It's just interesting.
Absolutely, and we spend so much time either worrying about what's gonna happen in the future or lamenting what has happened in the past, and you're right, if we're really focused on the one thing that we're doing, we get to expand time because this moment is all we have, right? We have this moment, and then this moment, and then this moment. And so if we're always rushing, we're never going to arrive. But if we always think about, okay, I've already arrived. I'm here. I'm eating the peach. I'm driving the car. I'm tasting my food. It actually makes for a richer experience because we are so lucky to have been born in this century with all of the wonderful marvels and all of the technology that exists, but you're right, it steals our time, it fragments our attention, and it can increase that anxiety because we think we need to do more and be more. But being a slow creator and living your life one little bit at a time, I think, is a radical thing to do in a culture that prioritizes hustle, 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 hustle.
Yeah, and one of the groups that I co-facilitate is adolescents, and one thing I've done is taken all my social media apps off my phone because I just would get sucked into the vortex and get anxious about stuff I have no control over. And I remember the group after I told them I did that, all of them like, "What did you do? How are you gonna live?" I'm like, I didn't have a cell phone when I was your age, so I've done it before. I can do it again." But they were just so shocked that I took all my social media apps off my phone. Like, how are you gonna be? What are you gonna? How are you gonna live? I'm like, I'll live. It's fine.
I am actually very grateful that I grew up in a time when I did not have a cell phone, and my entire high school, teenage, adolescent experience was more or less undocumented unless someone took a photo and I put it in a scrapbook. I think there's a lot of pressure on adolescents right now to perform and be on, and I can see why there's such a mental health crisis and so much anxiety. And good for you because we as adults, we are not immune to the mindless scrolling and the infinite comparison to social media. I do the same. I have a timer on the apps I do have on my phone where it will tell me, okay, that's 15 minutes for the day. Like you've probably rotted your brain enough. And I'll be like, okay, yeah, you're right. And other apps I only access online. And I also have started, um, when I pick up my phone, I tell myself exactly what I'm going to do. Like, I am checking for this particular email, or I am checking the weather because I want to see whether it's going to rain today. And that can help too, because I think sometimes we pick up the phone because we're bored or because we want to just like get that dopamine hit rather than using it as a tool to say, oh, I'm doing this task. It's like, no, the phone will tell me. No, I don't want my phone to tell me. I want to be the boss lady. I want to be in charge of my time. That's really hard. I'm not saying I'm perfect at that, but it's something that I'm trying to retrain myself to be more intentional about the way I use technology.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Like, yeah, saying or figuring out why you're gonna get your phone. That's a great tip. Helps you not go into the vortex. But once I took the apps off, like the next 2 days, I would find myself opening my phone and my finger would go to where Facebook was, like automatically. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that's not, that's crazy. Like it would just boom right to the spot where it was empty. And I'm like, wow, okay. Finally, I had that super trained in my brain to do that. So that was interesting.
Absolutely, and now I love graphic novels, so I always try to have a graphic novel downloaded onto my phone, so if I do have the, like, urge, I'll be like, "Oh, you know what? I can go to my library app and, like, I can scroll through something that is, like, a human being made a piece of art rather than all of the AI junk or the influencer, the 30-second boop, boop, boop." So I found that helpful too, so that when I am in that urge to do some scrolling, I'm scrolling through something that I've like pre-decided was worth my time. But it's so easy to just let your time be sucked up by lots and lots of other little irrelevant things that aren't maybe making you the best version of yourself that you'd like to be.
Absolutely. What is one tip you can share to help the listeners be more inclusive today? So just something anybody can start doing today to be more inclusive.
Oh, I think is to ask, are you comfortable? Is there anything I can do to help make you more comfortable. Hey, is there anything, hey, we're going to make some plans. Is there anything I should know ahead of time? Hey, I think there's so much power in then like turning in a kind, nice, non-patronizing way to say what, like, don't assume. And I think also for me, I have a dynamic disability. What I could do yesterday isn't necessarily how I am today. So asking is not offensive. Asking is a loving, kind gesture. And so if you're not sure, the number one thing you can do is to say, "Hey, would this meet your access needs? Hey, would this be good for you?" And then also not taking offense if something changes, because disability is unpredictable. We hate it too. Disabled people don't like to cancel plans. We don't like when we're unwell and can't do the thing we said we're going to do. So just try to have a little bit of grace if things end up not going the way you envisioned.
Yeah, thank you. If there's one thing you hope listeners take away from your story, what would it be?
Um, I just hope that people have the idea that they can do whatever they want. It just is going to look different. And so find someone who's willing to take you on and help you. And if you want to dive into an activity or you want to try something, I don't know. I've done accessible rock climbing and accessible sailing, and there's so much cool stuff out there. Um, and and there is no limitation that is too much for the right team to solve. So be bold and find the people who are doing the stuff you want to try. Get involved.
Thank you so much. Where's the best place for everybody to connect with you?
I have an Instagram page, Regina Beach _ creative wellbeing, and I run a Substack of the same name, Regina Beach Creative Wellbeing. I would love to connect with people either of those places, but I'm on all the other socials. Find me. Um, and I would love to, yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Ready for the last question?
I'm ready.
You like spam lunch meat, yes or no?
No, I don't.
That was quick. I live near Austin, Minnesota, where they make spam and where the spam museum is located. So I've been asking everybody that question. It's
Really?
fun to
I
see what they're.
always thought Spam was a Hawaiian thing. I did not know that the Spam Museum is.
Nope, from Minnesota, but yeah, it's big in Hawaii. And I
I
think
always
it's
thought
because
it
of
was
the
big.
war, because there were a lot of it. They had a lot of it there during the wartime. So
Okay. Are
yeah,
you a Spam fan then?
I mean, fan probably is too strong. I mean, I have a spam tie-dye spam shirt, and I have a can sitting here that I ask people. We have it maybe twice a year, just slice it up, fry it with like some pancakes. The
Dabbler.
Spam Museum's fun. The Spam Museum's fun. It's a lot of history stuff, a lot of different things. It's an interesting place.
Well, that's cool. Well, if I make it to Minnesota, I will put it on my to visit list. Is it accessible? Does it have step-free access?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, one level. It's just, yeah, just the sidewalk through the, I guess I don't know how big the bump is, but you should, yeah, you can get in there.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think must be kind of big in Britain because there was a couple, I think, from Britain who came over and got married in the Spam Museum.
Wow, they must be big fans of Spam.
I remember they'd have like a section of the museum where it's like different countries and how they like spam. And I think one of them is Britain. So it must be semi popular there, I guess. I don't
I know
know.
you can definitely get it in the grocery stores, but I'm just
Yeah.
not a top customer.
No, no problem. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. This was really great.
To those listening, thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. It is truly an honor. Please join the podcast newsletter by clicking on the link in the episode description to keep up with the latest episodes. Together, we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.